Hey guys, this is Ruli01 and welcome back to What If Deku Had Lelouch's Powers, Part 3. In the last time, I mentioned that Deku was given a chance by All Might if he wanted to have his quirk, All for One. And he's debating over it because of what C2 told him about possibly going insane. And you get me. That's going to be a big thing. And then he's going to have to think about it for a while. Well, let's get back to it. So it's the next day. And Deku's going to school. He's still debating about getting the quirk from All Might, but he's like leaning more against it because you get me. He doesn't want to risk his mental state to go insane. So he goes to the school. There's reporters again at the school trying to talk to All Might. He sneaks through it, or he just goes through it, and then they block him off, and they go to class. And since Aizawa says that they had to vote for a class representative, and everybody votes, and they vote for Deku and Momo because they're the smartest and the most capable. Deku not really sure if he's right for the job. Uh, he has that conversation with everyone in lunch, or him, Uraraka, and Ida. They're talking about why they want to become heroes, and Uraka says that she's in it for the money, but just because she wants to help her family. And Ida and Deku can understand that there's financial problems. Being a hero is like, yeah, it's a good job, and you get to help people sometimes. Yeah, okay. And then Ida explains that he's part of the hero family, the Ingenium family, and all that other stuff. And then it happens. The alarm goes off, and the porters broke in. Everyone loses their shit. And Deku, he asks Uraraka to help him get onto the door so that he could, tell everyone to calm down. But he accidentally does it with his Gias and it tells everyone to calm down. A few of the students that aren't able to see him don't calm down, but like everyone who's like in his line of sight, calms down. After that, he takes it off and like everyone returns back to normal. They get back to class. And then Aizawa says that they're gonna do they're gonna go to USJ and do some rescue training. They all suit up and then they go to on the bus ride. Suyu, I believe, asks Deku what his quirk is because they didn't really understand how it worked. They just saw that Bakugo, gave up in the middle of the fight. And he explains that he has the whole power to hypnotize people by eyesight, and like some people noticed it because they were there, especially Ida and like Uraka. They already kind of know because of what happened earlier with the whole lunchtime incident. And he explains furthermore that yeah, he has to have eye contact with someone, or so he could hypnotize them, and like they're asking like what can you make people do and like stuff, and like he explains he could give them orders to do anything he wants basically, but you get me. He doesn't really use it as often because he doesn't want to accidentally tell someone to do something they don't want to do. And some of the I think Denki or would have said something, but then as you know, people are expecting Mineta to say something, but yeah, he doesn't say shit because he's still hypnotized not to be perverted. So his whole mindset is straightforward. Anyways, continuing down an explanation, he explains that he needs eye contact, that it lasts as long as he wants it to, but he mostly does it for only a few minutes, and that if anything blocks his field of vision for seeing someone's eyes, then it doesn't work. Which explains why. And then he does like, oh, so that's why it didn't work on me. My helmet didn't allow you to see my eyes. I'm like, yeah, that's why I had to be a little bit more physical when I had to go against you. And then Deku, Bakugo's in the background fuming, thinking this freaking nerd fucking took the easy way out, freaking cheated, and like he's like sulking in the background because he lost to Deku. Anyways, so they arrive at the USJ and they meet 13, and she goes with the whole that your quirks can also be used to help and to harm people, and Deku already understands that thing because he knows that his Gias powerful enough that it could turn anyone to do whatever he wants, and that he could also like give him an order to be doing some bad things. So he like yeah, he understands that fully. So they walk into the USJ. They're looking at all the different zones. Deku thinks, this should be easy, or not, because he's not physically. You get me. His quirk is not really got used for rescue because he can only hypnotize people. He could be very well in like a hostage situation or interrogation. That's what he's thinking right now. But anyways, they go in. They're looking around, and then the portal opens up in the middle of the USJ, and all the villains come out. And Deku's like the one to freaking notice this, and he's like, Zawa Sensei, is that part of the class? And like, they're like, no, those are real villains. And then like, he tells 13 to take care of the kid and try to contact people for help. And then he jumps in, starts fighting the villains one on one against like 100 and shit, soloing it out. And then Deku's thinking he can't do this alone. We gotta help. And like 13 telling them, no, you guys are students. You have to stay safe. That's our job. We're the heroes. And like, Deku's thinking about what way he could help, and he could just simply go down there and like look at everyone's eyes and tell them to stop, like how he did before in the cafeteria, since he could work in a large group of people as long as he has their eyes available to see them. And he thinks about this. And then you get me, Shigaraki, sorry, not Shigaraki, Kurogiri comes in and tries to teleport everyone away. 13 tries to, uh, uh, stop him using her black hole, but then he attacks her from behind using her own black hole against her, and she's down. Deku has the wise idea of telling Ida to go out and try to, freaking call back for help. And then he says, I don't want to leave you guys behind. Do it. This is the only choice we got. We need help, and we won't make it in time. And like, he doesn't want to do it, but he says, either you do it, either that I'm gonna have to use my power on you. And he's like, you would do that? And I'm like, in this life or death situation, we need help. And like, he understands that if he's gonna take Deku to the point where he has to use his power on him to even like call for help, then it's really a dire situation. Anyway, so using the help of all his classmates, he's able to get outside the door and starts running to the back to the school so he could get help. Meanwhile, Kurogiri separates everyone like he did in regular. Deku is in the water zone with Asui and Mineta. So when he gets in the water, he's like a little bit disoriented, but then he starts seeing that there's the water villains, like they're going after him. So Suyu like kicks one of them in the face, grabs Deku with her tongue, and then lifts him up onto the boat. And then like he thanks Asui for her help, and like she said, you could call me Sue, and do you have an idea of how we get out of here? And like Deku's thinking about it, because they're in the middle of the water, surrounded by villains and like all the other stuff. And he says, I guess they don't know our quirks, either that they would have sent us somewhere else. And he's like, what do you mean? And like, even Mineta's like, yeah, what do you mean, Midoriya? And like, yeah, they don't know my quirk, and I would have been like in a bad spot where there's like a bunch of buildings obscuring my vision. Well, Suyu, you're good in the water, which we're in a water zone. And Mineta, I forgot what your quirk does. Oh. And then like he asked them to explain their quirks, and like they go through the whole explanation. Deku's thinking about plans. Since he doesn't have one for all, he can't do that Detroit Smash with all the other plans. But then he sees one of the villains using the water to smash the boat, and he's thinking, oh crap, the boat's sinking. So he comes up with a good plan. So he's gonna ask Suyu to jump as far as she can with Mineta, and then use her tongue to like whip him back so they could. Meanwhile, he's gonna use his Gios power on one of the villains, mainly the one who could control the water. So he looks at that guy's eyes, and he controls them, commands him to make a whirlpool in the center, and then he does it, engulfing all the other villains among that are around him. They're like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, you get me, because they don't get what happened. So while he does that, the boat sinks more, causing an even bigger implosion in the water, and they all get sucked in. Mineta threw his balls. Yeah, that sounds wrong. Anyways, he threw his sticky balls into the center of it, and like they all get stuck together. And then Suyu uses her tongue to get Deku out of the ship before it gets sunken in, and they escape the water zone. By the time they get on shore, they see that Aizawa is getting his ass kicked, like how he usually did in the anime. Very brutally, he's bleeding all over. His face has been shoved into the concrete multiple times. Yeah, he is in a bad spot right now. So, anyways, Deku's thinking, oh god, what do we gotta do? We gotta save Aizawa. And then Suyu's like, how can we do that? We don't have the quirks to do anything. And then like Deku's like, I do. I could hypnotize that dude and tell him to stop, and then that should be it. And then as soon as he's about to do that, Shigaraki uses one of Kurogiri's portals to try to touch Suyu, but right before he does that, Aizawa fucking stops the decay quirk with his cancellation quirk, and then you get me, Nanomu smacks freaking Aizawa's head one more time into the concrete, like fucking knocking him out. So what Deku does is he looks at the Shigaraki and tells him to stop. And then Kurogiri sees that and this boy is strong. He is able to control people just by looking at them. Interesting. The master would probably want this quirk. So meanwhile, he's hypnotized Shigaraki for a few minutes to stop. The thing is that Kurogiri tells Denomu to capture the boy, and that breaks Deku's concentration on hypnotizing Shigaraki to stop for a little bit. It's gonna take a few minutes to get off, but yeah, either way. So now the Nomu's attacking him, and then he's like, oh crap, and then he uses his Gios on the Nomu, telling it to stop as well, which it's working, but you get me, the whole mental conditions of the Nomu, he's fighting with it. So yeah, Power of the King versus whatever mental suggestions that freaking All For One had on the Nomu, that's beginning a struggle in his brain. So it's trying to take a step, but it's slowly, it's struggling to do it, at the same time trying to stop itself from moving. Meanwhile, Deku says to take Eraserhead and get out of here, and this is what he's doing. Kurogiri tries to stop them, but then he tells the Nomu to grab Kurogiri, and Kurogiri did not see that coming. Well, and you get me, so Kurogiri is dodging the Nomu, and he's trying to try to reinstate control of it, but you get me, trying to do that. And Deku, his eyes or his little, I think it was his left eye, that's starting to hurt, so he's having a little bit of trouble concentrating. And meanwhile, all the other father villains are thinking oh, if that kid's controlling that dude, then all we have to do is take that kid out. And they start surrounding him. He's all like, Nobu, defend me. And you get me. He's trying to do that, and his eyes are starting to strain on him. Well, his Gios power is starting to strain on him, and then the Nomu tries to defend Deku because of the command, but at the same time, more villains are popping up, and he can't you get me, even the Nomu, who's as strong as All Might, still has a problem with a bunch of them, because you get me, he's only running on commands. He's not on pure instinct and thought. He has to react to every situation. So eventually Deku starts getting tired, and Shigaraki gets back up, and he's gonna start going towards Deku, and he's all I can't do this. I can't do this. And then he fucking his Gios overactivates, and he tells everyone to stop. You get me, a big ass yell, and everyone hears him. And the weirdest thing is that everyone stops. And what happened was that when he gave the command to stop, it was an echo that happened. So within 100, I want to say 150 meter radius, everyone stops. So all the villains around him are frozen, still, they're stopped, just from that verbal command. Deku doesn't know what the hell just happened, but his eye, the Gios symbol on his eye, it's permanent. He can't turn it off. So he's like, what happened? And C2 felt this, and she was like, something must have happened to Deku, Midoriya, and like she's all like, oh, and there's frozen solid for that. Deku doesn't know how long he could hold it, but then All Might arrives, and like, I think that breaks Deku's concentration, and then like everyone's like, what happened? And like and then All Might comes in, like he starts smashing all the villains to the ground, and then like Deku covers his eyes so because he doesn't know what's going on. He knows that his eyeball is still active, but he doesn't know why he can't stop it like before. So, anyways, while that's happening, all the fodder villains are being taken care of. All the other students are, coming together and like grouping up. Deku's right there in the middle of it, and meanwhile, Shigaraki tells the Nomu to kill All Might, and like while he's doing that, Deku is trying to see what he could do to help, but he doesn't know what he could do at this point because All Might and freaking the Nomu are fighting at high speeds, and he can't, keep up and try to make eye contact. He's gonna need like a minute to do it. You get me, to look at the Nomu's eyes and hypnotize him. Meanwhile, Shigaraki is going closer and closer to Deku, and like he's like thinking, he must be weak. He has used his power too much that he's tired. And then you get me. Shigaraki tries to decay him, but Deku manages to roll out of the way. But like you get me. Shigaraki's still close enough to him to try to keep attacking him. And while All Might gets distracted, he gets punched by the Nomu in his weak spot, and then he like goes flying in the opposite direction. Meanwhile, Kurogiri's telling Shigaraki that they should capture this boy, that his quirk is very powerful, and that it would be useful for the master. And they agree. Freaking Shigaraki's like, I don't want to do that, and like he's fucking scratching his neck like how he always does. And like he's all like, it'd be more efficient and it would serve everyone well if we captured this child. And they're like, fine. And like they try to capture him. Fuck. But Deku, he's not gonna go out without a fight. But you get me. He's surrounded by the Nomu, Kurogiri, and Shigaraki. So the Nomu tells, Shigaraki tells the Nomu to capture the kid so they can take him away. Deku, he uses his eyeball telling the no, and like you get me. He tells the Nomu to stop again, and like it's having that struggle, but this time it's more in Deku's favor because his Geass got stronger, so the suggestion is more powerful. So he's stopping. And then he tells the Nomu to capture Kurogiri, and that distracts Kurogiri and the Nomu from the fight. And like Shigaraki's like, "What did you do to my Nomu?" And like it's like, I told him to go after your friend Kurogiri. And like he's like heaving and shit because he's tired, and like that Geass is taking a lot out of him. And like he's like, "You're not gonna last long, kid." And like he's heading towards them. He's running like really fast, and like Deku's like dodging his hand. Like, you know what? I was gonna capture you for my master, but now I'm just gonna turn you into dust. And like Deku's like, oh crap! I can't let him touch me. And like he's dodging and like doing it as best as he can, but he can't keep this up for long. Luckily, All Might gets back up, and then right before Kurogiri and the Nomu clash against each other because he's like trying to like throw in a portal to keep going way other places, but the Nomu keeps following his. And All Might gets up and he tries to rush to where Deku and Shigaraki are, but because like he's about to touch him and like he can't dodge anymore. But then you hear 2 gunshots and freaking snipe shot Shigaraki in the arm and in the leg. Deku breathes a sigh of relief as the heroes come and rescue them. After that, Kurogiri and the Shigaraki escape, and they don't take the Nomu because they can't control it anymore. So with Deku, like All Might's about to punch the Nomu, but he tells him to stop, that it's under his control right now, and that if you attack it, he'll start going on a rampage or something. He doesn't know. So All Might just leaves the Nomu alone, and like, you get me. Deku tells the Nomu to stay there, don't move, and don't hurt anyone. And like it just stands there, like motionless, emotionless, and it just stays there. Everyone comes in, they like check on the students. Everyone's fine, no major injuries, except for Aizawa. He had like a lot of he got beat up a lot. 13 with her back being torn by her own black hole. That's another major thing, but they're rushed to Recovery Girl to be checked out. Meanwhile, with the police come in, they see the what happened, the Nomu, all the fodder villains that were left there, and like everything. And like they see that they hear from the other students that what Deku did, how he hypnotized all those people, and like how he took control of the Nomu so they could have a chance to like win the fight. So Deku, he's asked to ask the Nomu if he knows anything about the villains that were there, and the Nomu doesn't speak. Even though he commands it to speak, he thinks, oh, I guess he can't speak because I commanded him to tell everything he knows, but he doesn't seem to be able to. And they're like, oh. And then like they take him to jail. He tells the Nomu to follow the directions of the police and only the police, and that's it. Like I mean, the permanent commands, like he could change them at will, so he doesn't have to have like that whole backfire that once he gives you a command he can't take it back or anything. His power evolved from that, and now he's able to, in a radius around him, he's able to hypnotize people without needing to make eye contact because he uses Gias so much during that incident that it evolved. So anyways, during this time they're back in class. Some of the kids are in the infirmary to check if they have any other conditions, and All Might talks to Deku. He asks him what happened out there with the USJ, and like what happened with your power. How come your eyeball doesn't turn off anymore? And like I think my power evolved that it doesn't turn off anymore, so that's why Deku's wearing his glasses and like his sunglasses, so he doesn't hypnotize people anymore. And Deku is gonna ask for the support course to see what happened, if they can make him something for his eyeball, so he doesn't hypnotize people. So during he's talking to All Might in Small Might form in his office because that injury, that he got hit hard. That he's losing more time again. So he asks Deku if he could it's gonna be his successor, and Deku says that All Might, I'll do it. I just realized that even though my Gias is powerful, in some situations I needed something powerful to get me out of it. If I was stronger, I probably could have fought off the villain while hypnotizing the other villains and kept them at bay. Without a leader, they were pretty much useless anyways. So he accepts the quirk, and All Might takes out a piece of his hair and tells you to eat this. And like Deku's like, what? And like, and then he's like, that's not the weirdest way I saw someone getting power. And like, what? And like, oh, never mind, All Might. Because you got me, when he first met C2, the way he got the Gias is because he kissed her. Anyways, so he takes the perk, and like they tell him that they had 2 weeks off. So Deku is gonna go to Dagobah Beach with All Might to train to use this quirk, and C2 is there to like supervise him. And she's like, "Who's this young lady? How do you know her?" And like she's like, "She's one of the persons that helped me control my quirk." And like, oh, but so she has the same one as you? No, I think she's immune to my quirk. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Anyways, so they're training, and like Deku breaks his arm, doing a 100% smash or the 5% smash. I forgot which one he did that broke his arm. And then like he gets it healed, and C2 like explains to Deku that why are you just using it in your arm? And like he's like, where else am I supposed to use it? And like your entire body, it's an enhancement quirk. It enhances your whole body, so your whole body should be able to handle all that power at the same time. But if you're only using it at one part of your body, you're just focusing all that one spot. Think of it as a balloon. A balloon expands when it's given water, but if you like put it in one spot, it's gonna pop and the rest of it will lose function. And like, she explains it like that, and like Deku gets it. Then he starts using full cowling. He doesn't master it fully, but he's good enough to use it for a few seconds in case he needs it. He's gonna need more training. So yeah, for the 2 weeks that they're off, he's working on that, but he's not that good. And then they come back to class. Meanwhile, he has to go to the support course, and he meets Mei Hatsume, and she's like overexcited because of what happened at the USJ from what she heard of, and that she meets Deku and sees his eye, and she says, "Wow, that's really cool, just like mine's." I'm like, "What?" And like she's like, "My eyes, I'm able to zoom in," and like he's like, "Your eyes, you're able to hypnotize people. That's pretty cool." And like she's like doing her whole thing about introducing Deku to all her babies, all her different ass gadgets that she made, and then she makes him the not an eye patch I want to say, but like something. Well, yeah, I'm just gonna give him like an eye patch thing that has like a film around it that it like works like a sunglasses, but at the same time he's able to see through it clearly and has like a heads up display. So pretty much like a solid snake eye. So he puts that over his eye and like he's like, "This is pretty cool." So what can it do? Well, it has the zoom in feature, zoom out feature, it has night vision, heat vision, it has a sonar in the corner and the hood. I've been working on this for a while since I thought that my goggles would be able to benefit if I had the same features. And like, oh, that's cool. So he meets May. They talk about stuff. She like tries to explain what about his hero costume, and he says, "Oh, so you have the hypnotism, but you don't have no other way to defend yourself. You ever thought of using like other gadgets and weapons?" Deku's like, "Yeah, I tried thinking about that, but I like to be mobile, and carrying weapons around or other gadgets might slow me down." She says, "Oh, understood, understood. Maybe I could make something for you in the future." I'm like, "Yeah, that'll probably work out." So Deku goes back to class. Everyone's commenting on how Deku like pretty much saved the whole class with his quirk, and that they're commenting on his new eye patch. It looks pretty cool, and like Kaminari, Kirishima's like, "Damn, it looks so manly. Like you have battle scars, dude." And I was like, "I still have my eyeball. It's just that you get me. I can't control my quirk right now." I'm like, "Oh." And like Deku is like trying not to, you know, be flustered with all the attention he's getting, and like Uraka is like right next to him, like, "You did great at the USJ," and like also he says, "Yeah, you did good, Midoriya. You saved Aizawa, you saved All Might, you even stopped the villains for like a couple of minutes right there in the center, enough time for everyone to get saved." And Deku's trying not to get embarrassed with all the attention, and then Aizawa walks in with all the bandages. "Okay, guys, be quiet. I have an announcement to make." "Aizawa, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be in the hospital?" "You think that would stop me? Anyways, we gotta prepare. Next big thing is gonna happen." And they're all worried, like, "What? Another villain attack?" And then like, "No, the UA Sports Festival. It's gonna happen in a week, so you guys need to prepare." And I'm gonna leave it off there. So next time we're gonna go through the UA Sports Festival, and that's gonna be a big ass thing. So Deku has One for All, so he's learning to control it. So he's gonna have a little bit more time to practice with it. His Gios got stronger, so he has to cover his eye, and we'll see what happens next. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit my Discord. And if you guys have any suggestions for what if, I'll probably do it later. Next one I'm gonna do is what if Deku was the son of Alucard from Helsing Ultimate. So look forward to that in the future. Goodbye.